Hello, everyone. It's great to be here with you. I'm sure that you've been having an absolutely fantastic day. And as Iled mentioned, I used to live as a monk. I lived as a monk for 3 years while I was straight out of business school, actually. And I ended up traveling across India and Europe. And so I learned some good yoga exercises to make people feel awake at this time of the day when everyone's starting to fall asleep and lose energy. So I'm going to ask you all to stand up to start off with, just to get everyone up on their feet. The reason why I do that exercise, there is a reason behind everything we do, is because so much of our life is based on division. We have physicality, we have our mentality. We have stuff that we love doing, we have stuff that we hate doing, we have stuff that makes money, we have stuff that loses money. Everything is divided into blacks and whites. And actually, some of the biggest challenges we face as thinkers, as innovators, as people trying to develop and create new experiences is actually this division. And so today I'm really excited to talk to you all about what it means and why connected thinkers will actually rule the future and how we can all become connected thinkers as well. Does that sound like a good idea? Everyone with me? Awesome. Okay, so I'd like to tell you about an experience that I had about a month ago. I was traveling to LA. How many of you have been to LA? Anyone been to LA? Awesome. How many people like LA? No. Hands always go down for that, unfortunately. Hopefully no one in the crowd is from LA. I love LA. So I was off to LA, and I pulled my phone out, and I sent a tweet. And I said, I can't wait to go to LA. I tagged in LA Tourism, tagged in my airline, I always fly Virgin. And then I said, I really, really hope that I can get a reservation at my favorite pizza place tonight. How many people like pizza? Right, usually more popular than LA. So I tagged in my favorite pizza place, and then I said, I hope that I can get tickets to the LA Lakers game tonight because I'm a massive basketball fan. Does anyone like basketball? Awesome, good. So I tagged in the LA Lakers. I then sent that tweet, thought nothing of it, got onto my plane, went to sleep, which is my usual journey when I'm traveling. I'm able to go to sleep in any form of travel, any vehicle. Got off at the other side, grabbed my bags, obviously ordered an Uber, jumped into the Uber, got off at the hotel, was greeted by the concierge, went to reception. They showed me everything, showed me where the spa was. They told me about the details, told me about the fire exit, all that kind of stuff they do at hotels. And then they said, actually, you know what, Mr. Shetty, we saw your tweet. And they said, because we saw your tweet, we've actually managed to reserve you a place at your favorite pizza place. And we've got you tickets to the LA Lakers game tonight. They're upstairs in your room. Now, that didn't really happen. But imagine if it did. Right? Imagine if it did. The reason why I tell that story is because, how many of you believe me? Be honest. Be honest. Now everyone turns into a skeptic. All of a sudden, everyone's great at lie spotting. We believe it because it should be possible. We believe it because we expect it to be possible. You want it to be possible because limitless possibility exists in our minds. And actually, if any of those brands had got their act together and recognized that if they'd done that, I probably would have given them a massive shout out on social media, which would have worked out for all of us in all of our favor and could have worked extremely effectively, but they didn't because we don't think connectedly yet. We're not thinkers that are connected, thinking about all the parts of our lives, our jobs, our humans, our customers, whoever it may be. Another example I'd love to give you is based on one brand in Britain that takes out an advert on Christmas. Every Christmas, they take out this massive advert. They spend millions on it. Anyone know who that brand is? Coca-Cola is one of them. There's another one. Waitrose, it's their retail site. John Lewis, right? John Lewis is famous for every Christmas putting millions of pounds into adverts. And a couple of years ago, there was a star of the show. Does anyone remember who the star of the show was? Not last year, the year before. 2014. Anyone know? Yeah, that's right. Good memory. Monty the Penguin. Right? Monty the Penguin was a penguin in the adverts and also came as a cuddly toy in 3 sizes. You could buy Monty the Penguin for £10. You could buy Monty the Penguin for £30. You could buy a life-size Monty the Penguin for £90. Me being a loving boyfriend, I went for the £10 one for my girlfriend, went to try and buy it. This was the first year in history. Why am I talking about this? This was the first year in history that John Lewis had gone YouTube first before television. This is massive for a very traditional brand in Britain to recognize that they wanted to go to YouTube first before television. 48 hours after the advert had launched only on YouTube, I went online to try and buy Monty the Penguin, the £10 version, and he was completely sold out. I then thought, okay, I can spend a bit more on my girlfriend this Christmas. Let's try and save that £30. He was completely sold out. I then opened up a WhatsApp group and thought I might have to do a bit of crowdfunding, try and get my mates to chip in, her mates to chip in, try and get this large £90 Monty the Penguin. It was completely sold out. In 48 hours, they'd completely sold out of their stock of the cuddly toy of Monty the Penguin. So I switched over to his female counterpart, Mabel. Right? They had Mabel, a female penguin, tried to buy her, and she was completely sold out just by being live on YouTube for 48 hours. I then found out from a friend of a friend of a friend whose girlfriend works at John Lewis that they'd actually sold 300,000 Monty the Penguins in 48 hours just from YouTube advertising. Nowhere else. And I also found out that they had more stock, but they were saving it for Christmas Eve. Now, that's a true story. But just look at the way a connected thinker absolutely changes it. So in my time as living as a monk, working in digital strategy and innovation, now working in media and a content producer myself, I've really been interested in the minds of innovators, looking at the brains of innovators, looking at how people think. Why do they think differently? I've spent time with monks and learned things from monks that I haven't learned from business people. I've learned things from business people that I quite frankly wish I never learned. But the point is that we learn things from all different places, but the most fascinating thing that I've learned is how people think and why they think that way and what helps them think that way. What is it about innovators that makes them see problems differently? What is it about them that helps them come up with these solutions? How many of you are those people that say, when they see a product release or an idea and they go, oh, I had that idea 2 months ago. Anyone do that? Or I had that idea 2 years ago. Yeah? We all do it all the time. I do it as well. And whenever we think that, you've got to realize that if you had that idea 2 months ago or 2 years ago, someone had it 5 years ago, and that's why they pulled it off. What is it about that person who's beating us to those best ideas? What are they doing differently? And that's what I want to explore today. And we've lived in the society of doctors and lawyers and engineers. We then evolved into a society where the people that ruled the future were analysts, coders, developers. We're now moving into an age, the age of the connected thinker. The biggest challenge that rests upon all of us today as innovators is the ability to think connectedly. What do I mean by that? It means being able to bring together wisdom, technological trends, social impact, sustainability. Today, we're challenged with having to be able to connect thoughts from all of these areas. Why? Because we're dealing with more data and more information than ever before. You've had presentations about it earlier today. I don't need to repeat it. You've got 2.78 million views on YouTube in 1 minute, right? You've got over 1,000 Uber journeys in 1 minute. And my favorite statistic is you've got 972,222 swipes on Tinder every minute, right? So whichever one of those you're contributing to, the point is that we are open to a plethora of information and data. The people who can see patterns, the people who see connections, the people who see opportunities are the ones who make the most of the future. I'm going to play you a short video that I produced on this topic that was featured by the Huffington Post. So if we just play the first video, please. Once a lady was in a marketplace and she saw Picasso. And she went up to Picasso and she said, Picasso, can you draw me a portrait? He said, sure, I'll draw you a portrait. He reached for a pen and paper and he, in 30 seconds, sketched an identical portrait of this lady, and handing it back to her, he said, that'll cost you $30,000. And she replied, she said, Picasso, how can you charge me $30,000? That took you 30 seconds. He said, it took me 30 years to be able to do that in 30 seconds. And it's amazing how that time, that unforgotten, that invisible world beyond the bottom of the iceberg, underneath the water, the part you don't see, is actually what made what you see today possible. Right, so in that short video that goes on, I'm talking about this theme, which I like to call the invisible world. And the invisible world is the world that we don't see. And therefore, when you look at the innovator, you see where they are now, you see their net worth now, you see what they've achieved now. But the part that you don't see is the invisible part, the part of all that struggle, all that opportunity, all the decisions they had to make. And that's one of the things we had to do. What I'd like you to do is you will have 4 pieces of card on your table. I'd like you to take one color. The color I want you to take is the pink card. And on that piece of card, right, on that piece of card, I want you to write down what you most want in life, right? What you most want in life. It can be as tangible or as intangible as you like. I've had people write down happiness, success. I've also had people write down billionaire. I've also had people write down yellow yacht, blue Ferrari, and a white house, right? So you can be as specific as you like. One of the interesting things, they looked at research into the best innovators and the most creative thinkers, and they found that the number one skill that separated innovators from people who weren't able to innovate, weren't successful in innovation, was called, and they did this, Harvard researchers did this, 3,000 executives over 6 years. And they found one skill that differentiated them. It was called associating or connecting. The ability to connect and see patterns in almost unrelated questions, ideas, plans, and thoughts. That was the one skill that separated innovators, the number one skill. The ability to see patterns, synergy, harmony, when other people would only see a scatter, disparity, and not really seeing any connection at all. That's what it took. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to stand up and come and join us next to this information. So come forward. If you're right at the back, make your way to the forward pretty quickly. What I'd like you to do is, on this piece of paper, you wrote down the thing you most want in life. I'm going to give you 5 seconds to try and find it. Right? Try and find your one. Now, this is the time when you realize which ones of your colleagues are the most competitive, which ones are the most violent, which ones are the most ruthless, and which ones would do anything to get ahead of you, right? So I'm going to give you 5 seconds to find your card. So what we're going to do is do a 3, 2, 1 countdown. When I finish the countdown, we start the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. You can do anything you like to find your card. So, right, get ready. 3, 2, 1, go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. Stop, stop, stop. Okay, how many people found their card? Put your hand up. Okay, I'm going to give you 5 more seconds. Go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop. How many of you got your card that time? Okay. Guys, no cheating, no cheating. All right, give yourselves a round of applause and take a seat. Everyone head back to their seats. Okay, great. So how many of you found your card straight away? Raise your hands proudly. I can see it, everyone. I've done this activity with, 100 people in the room, 80 people in the room, 1,000 people in the room we did it with once. That was pretty crazy. And the amazing thing is, no matter how big a group you do this with, the proportions always stay the same. A few people find it straight away. A few more people find it after some struggle. And the majority of people never find it at all. And funnily enough, those proportions correlate to chasing your dreams. Some people find success in dreams and their careers and everything straight away. Some people find it after some time and some struggle, and some people don't find it at all, ever, right? Don't want to get all fatalistic, but it's true. The point is, what gets you into that first or gets you into that second as opposed to the rest? Now, the interesting thing about that I'm bringing out here, the point that I'm trying to bring out here through this exercise, this is experience number 1 that I'm giving you today. They found that the most innovative people in the world open themselves up to so many experiences, diverse cultures, travel, different thought processes, different people from totally different backgrounds. You can find the answer to a technology problem without talking to someone who knows anything about technology, if you want to find it. Steve Jobs found calligraphy useful for building computers. Mark Zuckerberg found it useful to go to India to an ashram to spend time with monks to redefine and recognize what Facebook was trying to achieve, if we study what he's looking at. They were able to connect seemingly unconnected things to solve business problems because they were open to the idea, because they were thinking in a connected way. And therefore, experience number 1 that I've just given you all right now is that there's actually a really easy solution to this. And I saw one person do it. And it's always just one person. I think it was, who was it? It might have been you. There was one person who did it, and it's always one person. The easiest solution, the quickest solution to solve this exercise is if everyone picks up a card and says, whose is this dream? And finds the person. Was it you who was doing that? Yeah. That's the quickest way to solving this exercise. I've never seen it done before. No one's ever tried it. The only place where people got close was Google in New York. So I've done this at LinkedIn, I've done this at Microsoft, I've done it at Twitter. The only place where anyone got close was the people at Google in New York, but only 2 or 3 of them were doing it. But I've never seen it happen. Because the key to solving that puzzle is helping other people find their goals. Is helping other people, collaborating with people to helping you reach your goal and them reaching theirs. Without that, it's absolutely impossible. And then this famous Michael Jordan quote that I actually absolutely love: talent wins games, but teamwork and intelligence wins championships, right? Win championships. Because what we're seeing in the world today is a need for co-opetition. I don't even know if it's a real word, but it's collaborating with your competition. That's the way that we're all going to move forward. If you look at this on a greater scale, they say that 20 years ago, we used to be the average of the 5 people we spent most time with. Now, if you're looking worried right now, you're thinking about the top 5 people in your life, and you're thinking, oh God, I need to change who I spend time with. But 20 years ago, they used to say we are the average of the 5 people we spend most time with. Today, you're the average of the 5 networks you spend most time on. Statistics show it. MIT did some great research. They compared people who had diverse Twitter networks as opposed to undiverse Twitter networks. And MIT found, when they looked at both, that the number of ideas submitted to organizations, entrepreneurial, innovative ideas, they found that the number of ideas submitted by both these groups, those that had diverse networks, those that didn't have diverse networks, the number of ideas were the same. But when judged by experts, when judged by innovators, the people who had diverse Twitter networks came up with better ideas, came up with ideas that were followed. Now, I'm not advocating Twitter as the answer. I'm talking about the principle of having diverse networks. The ability to collaborate in this exercise across networks, across geographies, with people that you would never, ever collaborate with. That ability to think connectedly, to reach out to someone who you don't expect the answer to come from, is more likely to enhance your intelligence, even if your understanding's in snippets, rather than it's completely focused. So experience number 1 for becoming a connected thinker is let's spend time connected with networks that we don't necessarily expect the answer to come from. Let's open up our minds. Let's be more diverse. Let's spend time with more diverse individual, diverse groups. And one of the best ways that this can be talked about on a global scale is actually what the sharing economy has done. I'm sure all of you have seen or read, hopefully, the Exponential Organizations book put out by the Singularity University. How many of you have heard of Singularity University? I 100% recommend you need to check it out. So Singularity University, founded by Ray Kurzweil, in a book called Exponential Organizations, talks about how the organizations that are going to come and ruin your business think exponentially like you don't. So the common examples that he dissects in that book are that of Uber, Airbnb, Facebook. And I'm sure you've seen this being thrown around, but Uber, the biggest taxi company in the world, owns no taxis. Airbnb, the biggest real estate or biggest owner of estates, doesn't own any estates. Right? Facebook, the biggest media provider, doesn't own any media. Well, they do own it, they just don't make it. So the point is that all of these people have leveraged collaboration and built billion-dollar business models based on collaboration, networking, and sharing. It's phenomenal when you actually think about it, that they've actually built business models without the need for owning anything. I mean, that principle alone. So sharing and collaborating, just this, diverse networks, being totally diverse reasonably, is one way to do it. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is the principle of actually, the second principle of being a connected thinker is actually having the ability to know yourself, connect with yourself, and connect with your team as well. And this is one of the biggest challenges we see, that the ability to connect and know others and understand others effectively, not speaking to people. The myth that you should treat people as you would like to be treated is a myth. It's terrible. It's terrible advice. You should treat people how they like to be treated. We should speak and communicate to people the way they like to be communicated with, not the way we like to be communicated with. It's actually the worst form of advice that we've ever received in our lives. And how do we overcome that? We overcome that by understanding more. A great conversation, I'm sure if you've seen the movie Jobs, there's this great conversation. If you read the book, it's expanded upon. Walter Isaacson talks about it. And Steve Wozniak looks at Steve Jobs and he says, what the hell do you do? right? You're not a coder, you're not an engineer, you're not a developer, you're not a designer. What the hell do you do? How many times have you ever looked at someone on your team and said, what the hell do you do? Have you ever felt that way? Anyone felt that way before when you're looking around? So that's what Steve Wozniak felt with Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs, in that moment, gives the response that I believe is just phenomenal to come up with it at that moment in time. He says, musicians play their instruments, I play the orchestra, right? Ego, arrogance, but the point being made is that he understood his role and he understood the roles of others. He understood his strengths and he understood the strengths of others. Whereas the unconnected thinkers, the disconnected thinkers, only understood the roles that they had and weren't able to understand those of others. So I'm going to give you two very easy ways, whether you're doing social analysis, social media analysis, individual analysis in your teams, two easy questions to define how to connect with someone, how to communicate with someone, how to actually connect with them on a different level. And for that, I'm going to ask you to stand up. So I'd like you to stand up again. Let's go again. So what I'd like you to do this time, I'm going to ask you two questions. And when I ask you the question, you're going to say to me, I'm both. Or you're going to say to me, I'm not sure. We've got to pick a side. We are a mix of everything. But for the benefit of us understanding ourselves better and being able to connect with others better, it's important to create a bit of separation and understanding. So the first question I'd like you to answer for yourself is, are you more outgoing or more reserved? And I'll tell you what I mean by that. If you're more outgoing, you're the person who's the life of the party. Later on tonight, you're going to be in the center of that room. You're going to be the one leading it. You're going to be pulling everyone there. The reserved people doesn't mean that they're not outgoing. They're just more likely to casually get there in their own time. They're going to be a bit more reserved. They might prefer a conversation on the side rather than being at the center of the room. Which one are you? If you're outgoing, I want you to head to that direction of the room, shift totally that way. If you're reserved, I want you to go that way. If you feel in the middle, you're not allowed. So choose one of these sides. If you're outgoing, head that way. And if you're reserved, head that way. What I'd like you to do now, so that's the question number one. So when we're trying to figure out what kind of communication people like, or at least to understand it a bit better or approach it with some strategy, this is the first question, outgoing or reserved. And you can often see this from people's body language, the way they present themselves, the way they talk. I had a few people pushing me off stage because they wanted to get to that side, right? Those things happen. So if someone pushed you while they were going that way, they're outgoing. They're a bit more bold. If you're a bit more respectful, you're reserved. So, second question. Are you more people or task-orientated? Now, I'll give you an example of what I mean. If you're people-orientated, you're thinking in this activity, I hope everyone's having a good time. I hope everyone's enjoying this. I hope everyone's really engaged. I hope everyone's thinking about the right things. If you're task-orientated, you're thinking, God, I hope this guy shuts up in 30 minutes. Like, is he going to stick to time? Is he going to get off stage in time? We're running on, the food's late. Is it out? You're worried about the tasks. And we all have natural tendencies inside our brains that pull us either way. This is the one, not that you end up doing because you have to at work. So, for example, if I'm a people person, but I choose tasks because I'm at work, and then I feel guilty about letting down people, you're a people person. Task people don't feel guilty about upsetting people, right? If they've got to stick to task and get it done, and people get upset, that's just the way it is. Are you a task or people? If you're task, head to the back of the room on your side. Don't leave your side. If you're task, head to the back of your side. If you are people, head to the front of your side. Do not switch sides at this point. So I should have 4 groups. I want these guys. Say hello. Right, what do you think they are? They are people and outgoing, right? Yeah? Guys at the back, make some noise. What are you? Outgoing and task. You're outgoing and task, yeah? So you guys are called Ds. I'll explain what I mean. You guys are called Is. Just remember your letter. You can write it down. Is, Ds. You guys are task and reserved, yeah? So make some noise. Hello. See, they're trying task and reserved. You guys are Cs. Yeah, you're C, the letter C. So D-I-C. And you guys are what? You are people and reserved. Make some noise. Hello. Oh, very nice. Okay, so you guys are S, right? So D-I-S-C. Now, I'll tell you what that means. So there's a beautiful model that I love talking about. And it's based on this quote that was said by Albert Einstein. He said, everybody's a genius. But if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And what happens with most people is that they are that fish trying to climb a tree, and they're judged on those merits. If you judge an artist by how many paintings they paint each week, they would be failures. If you judge them on the beauty of their art, their successes. We often put the wrong metrics on the wrong people, and therefore they seem like failures or winners or losers or successes only based on our metrics, but you may be measuring yourself and others on the wrong metrics. Hence, understanding them changes the game. So this is the DISC model. So D's make some noise. I's make some noise. S make some noise. C make some noise. Awesome. So the D's, these people are demanding. They're dictating, right? They get things done. They're doers, right? They make things happen. They build plans. They dissect plans. They get things done. They're movers, right? They want to see deadlines. They want to see results. These are also the people in the organization who make people cry, right? Often they can make people cry because they like to work hard, but their intention is not bad. Their intention is they like to get the work done. These people like to be communicated clearly in terms of deadlines, in terms of results. If you go to a meeting with these people and you start talking about vision and strategy and fluff, they'll be like, where's the data? Where's the results? I want to see the results. They don't even care about the data. They want to see the results. They want to see, have you delivered? Loads of D words, right? That's that kind of people. Everyone agree if you know those people in that corner? We won't judge anyone, right? So these people are ready, fire, aim, right? They're ready, then they fire, and then they aim because they want to get it done. They're movers. Yeah, so D's. These guys are I's. These guys are inspirers. They're influencers, right? They're emotional. They're emotive. They get people thinking. They come up with ideas. They come up with insights. They're great at selling. They're great at getting people motivated. They're great at getting behind people, right? These guys are ready, talk, right? These guys can talk forever because they're coming up with ideas, inspiring, etc. These guys in the organization, if you say to them, I want that on my desk at Monday morning, they won't be inspired by that. If you tell them, you are that one chosen one who will change history forever, take your time. They'll get it to you on Sunday night because they want to be inspired. They want to be talked to in a way where they feel that they are making a difference. That's what motivates them, their eyes, their influence. Now we move over to the C's, conscientious. You people are collective. You're cautious. You're calm. You're selective. You're focused. Without you, any product that we were trying to make would have no quality control. These are the kind of people that send you emails that tell you that you've got spelling mistakes, right? If you ever get a message that says you've got spelling mistakes, too many abbreviations, you're getting it from these people. They're detail-orientated. You're great at spotting defects. You're great at finding constructive criticism points. You are ready, aim, 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 aim. They just keep aiming because they want it to be perfect. You're perfectionists. I'm getting a lot of nods? Maybe not, maybe, right? So these people are perfectionists. You guys are known as C's. So if we didn't have D's in the world, the product or the project would never get delivered. If we never had I's in the world, it would never be sold. People would never like it. If we never had C's, it would never work, right? The actual product or project would never work. And finally, we come to S's, who are steady, stable, secure, supportive. These people in the organization that you go to get a hug when you feel down, right? Let's have an R. Yeah? These people are loving. They love supporting people. They like to help people when someone's having a hard time. They'll come up to you and say, actually, do you need some help with that? I'm happy to take on your work. Oh, actually, you can't figure that out. I did that last week. I know how it's done. I know someone else that I could connect you to. These people are great connectors. They're great at providing a supportive, mediative boundary and a part of a team that often is missed. If you don't have these people in a team, everyone will just hate each other forever, right? These people solve some of the hardest team and people problems that exist. Now, the way these all communicate with each other is very interesting. C's hate D's, right? C's hate D's. C's hate D's because they want to get things done, but they may overlook some focus points, they may overlook some details, they may not give enough attention, right? C's also don't like I's because I's are just wishy-washy and full of fluff, right? So I's come up with all this stuff and C's are like, but where's the data? Where's the analytics to back it? Why am I not seeing this? And they're saying, where are the results, right? So often there's a conflict of interest. The biggest conflicts you'll find are in the diagonal opposites. So D and S have problems because S want people to be happy, and D's just want to get the job done. That's why they argue. And C's and I's argue because I's are ideas and vision, and C's are the hardcore facts and want to get things done. Next time you see challenges in your team, recognize that these are probably the driving factors behind why we have challenges in teams. When we look at things through our perspective, it's kind of like, I'll give you a really, really basic project example. We were at a retreat where I was speaking out in Phuket earlier this year. And the interesting thing was, for once ever in Phuket, at one point in that time, it shouldn't be bad weather, but there was likely to be bad weather. And I heard a conversation. We were meant to have an outdoor conference seminar that I was leading, and the team was having a discussion about whether I should do it outdoors or indoors. The Ds were like, look, it doesn't matter where it happens. It needs to happen. It needs to get done. As long as we stick to time, on budget, on schedule, I don't care where Jay does it. It really doesn't matter, right? It needs to get done on budget, on time, without any extra cost. The Is were like, guys, we can motivate everyone, right? Even if it's outdoors, we can get everyone really excited. Even if it's indoors and it rains, we'll get everyone motivated by it. It's absolutely fine. We'll make sure that everyone feels happy. We'll sell it to them. We'll make it seem exciting, right? The C's were like, why don't we just check the weather forecast for every hour of the day, right? If we just check the weather forecast for every hour of the day, we'll know what to do. I'm of course, putting forward extremes. And then the S's were like, look, we'll just make everyone nice food. We'll just make sure that everyone's really happy and taken care of. Even if they have to go inside, we'll take them umbrellas in case they get wet. We'll just make sure that everyone's happy. And that's the kind of conversation, of course, not with that sort of an example, but those are the kind of conversations we have every day. Connected thinkers, just as that statement I said earlier, musicians play their instruments, I play the orchestra. People understand their role in the team, and they understand the strengths of others. They let others play to their strengths, they play to their strengths, and then come up with solutions that work. Give yourselves a round of applause and take a seat, right? That's lesson number 2. So like I said, lesson number 1 for being a connected thinker was collaborate outside your circles, co-opetition, collaborate with your competition. And lesson number 2 was all around knowing your role and knowing that of others, right? Knowing your role and understanding other people's strengths and letting them play to theirs, being connected mentally and emotionally to understand. Now, this doesn't just rely on leaders and managers. It's not that leaders and managers need to understand this and everyone else doesn't. Actually, the more the whole team thinks like this, the more you'll be able to see why certain things come out. Now, every time an S says something an S would, I don't judge them, right? I just think, oh, that's why you're saying it, because you're coming from that thought process. When I see something that a D is trying to push me to get things done, I don't just think, oh, you don't care about me. I actually think, oh yeah, that's because you're driven by that. Being connected to understanding people's intentions above their actions helps us understand how to connect on a deeper level. Is everyone with me? Yeah? Awesome. So, third point that I wanted to raise is actually called, or based on this quote by Steve Jobs called "Stay hungry, stay foolish." And it's actually that if you want to be successful, if you want to be a connected thinker, we have to think like a child again. Now, I wonder how many of you have children in the room and you're thinking, what are you on about, right? But it's true. If you look at some of the greatest leaders, they talk about this principle of thinking like children again. What does that mean? Imagine you could see a washing machine for the first time again. What would you think it was? What would you think it was? Any ideas? Imagine if you could see a washing machine again for the first ever time and explore it. How would you think it's a washing machine, or would you think it's something completely different? Imagine if you saw a mobile phone for the first time as a child. What would you think it is? If you saw a car for the first time, if you saw a building, what would your imagination allow you to believe it is rather than what you see it now? And this is one of the greatest challenges we see with innovators is they see something as just what it is. When the iPhone came out, or when people started launching app stores and apps started developing on phones, etc., which I'm sure many of you work on, that what didn't always exist. There was someone who looked at the phone and said it has to do more than be able to play Snake, right? You've got to be able to do more on that than make a few calls, set an alarm, play Snake all day. There has to be more to it. Because they looked at it with fresh eyes. That's what children do. They look at things through fresh eyes. But today it's become even challenging. I saw a video on YouTube where a young child, probably the age of about 2 years old, went up to their TV screen in their home, a flat screen TV, and started doing this. and then looked extremely confused because the TV didn't swipe, because all they've been exposed to is their dad's iPad or their mum's iPad, and they've been doing this the whole time. So we're now getting conditioned earlier on to be limited in our creativity because we look at something and think that's all it is. How many of us look at mobiles now and think, yeah, we're pretty much maximizing what can be done? The biggest innovators stay hungry, stay foolish. They look at it from a different perspective. You all on your piece of paper have something called the 30 Circles Challenge. Yeah, everyone should have a 30 Circles Challenge. Now, I don't know how many of you have done this before. How many of you have done it before? Put your hand up. Oh, fantastic. Great. So, what this challenge is all about, and I'm getting my phone because I'm going to time you. What this challenge is all about is that there is behavioral science behind it, hence we're going to do it. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. You have 3 minutes to complete as many circles as you can. The point is to transform what seems to be a circle into an object, a space, a creative thing, whatever it is. It could be absolutely anything. I'm not going to plant any thoughts. I'm not going to give examples because that will only get you thinking in a very linear, not a lateral thinking method at all if I tell you exactly what to say. So you can fill those circles or create on that piece of paper whatever you like. But the aim is to complete or use all of the circles that exist on that piece of paper. And you have 3 minutes to do it. It can be as simple or as complicated, whatever you like. There's no right or wrong answer. Right? Everyone ready? Start now. So how many of you finished the exercise? How many of you finished all 30? Okay. How many of those in the people who finished had letters? Put your hand up. How many of you had smiley faces? How many of you had suns? Right, you get my point. It always happens. When you finish it quickly, it's naturally filled with smiley faces, emojis, letters, numbers, stuff that is very easy for us to quickly think of. Nothing wrong with that at all. But that's what speed does to us. When we think we have a task with a certain amount of time, speed makes us make it really clinical for us the way we think. It completely stops our neural pathways from opening up, completely makes our thought process linear, and doesn't allow us to be creative. That's a great way of thinking, and it comes from our time in life when, if you heard the rustling in the bushes, you would think you were going to be eaten by a tiger, right? And our brain would say to us, okay, get out of here. That's all you've got to think about. Survival, bang, focused. It's great. When you've got to get the job done, you've got a launch date tomorrow, bang, that's the thought process you want. This thought process is fantastic for so many things in business, so many things in innovation, not specifically for creativity and allowing to tap into parts of our brain that help us think connectedly. This stops us, it disconnects us because it simplifies and gives a singular goal, single-mindedness, rather than opening up our mind. How many of you only finished 5 to 10? And how many of you finished 5 to 10 have something different in each thing? Right, awesome. So I've seen a bag of marbles before. Someone just put marbles at the top, drew a whole thing around it. I've seen someone come up with bubble wrap. So they just made it bubble wrap and they put pop if you want and just connected all the dots up as well. The point is, if you're seeing yourself come up with lots of things that are similar, i.e. lots of faces, lots of animals, lots of objects. I've seen people do lots of road signs. We're not allowing ourselves to open up our mind. There's no difference between the way we think. It's just that we get motivated by speed and completing a task more than those who don't. If you're seeing lots of variation and you were slower, you're able to tap into, you're opening up that part of your mind that's allowing yourself to be more creative. If you're connecting it all, it's a sign of lazy intelligence, being able to connect everything very quickly, but not giving it much deeper thought. That's also useful. The point is, all these mind frames are useful for different tasks. Being a connected thinker means knowing which one to execute at which time. No method is right all the time, right? And what I wanted to end with, the fourth experience that I wanted to speak to you all about, was this point of what turns me on. This was from Bono. What turns me on about the digital age, what excited me personally, is that you've closed the gap between dreaming and doing. And my fourth principle of being a connected thinker is that of blurring the lines. And my most recent example that I've been looking at or studying to see that is Pokemon Go. Pokemon Go has blurred the lines because it's been able to take a digital experience totally physical, taken something offline to online, online to offline, allowing us to completely blur the lines between reality and digital, where there is no digital, everything is simply a reality that we're experiencing. This is the topmost form of blurred lines, of being able to turn dreaming into doing. And this level of thinking, which is going to come out more with the Internet of Things, which is going to come out more with connected devices, which is going to be our future, is where we don't have digital strategy anymore. It's where we just have strategy in the world. Because the word digital becomes irrelevant more and more. Technology becomes irrelevant more and more because it's actually built into us. It's become more human. And that's why one of the biggest challenges that we're seeing is the challenge now is not to be human, it's not to be digital, it's to be human through digital. That's the new challenge that sits in front of every single one of us and that stands before us, this turning it from dreaming into doing. And all of this ultimately is underpinned by one point, and it stems from the Pokemon Go example. I was looking into the founder of Pokemon Go and the person who came up with the idea. He said that when he was young, he used to love going out into the woods and finding different insects. That was actually his passion in life, was collecting, finding, seeing different insects. And he wanted his children and young children of today's world to have that same experience. But he said, there's no way I could ever motivate a young child to go out and find it exciting to find insects. And so he created Pokemon. Now, whether you think that's a great idea or not a great idea, the point is it stems from a purpose that he had, that he felt that his diverse experiences as a child, he wanted other people to experience that. And what we find that all innovators, all connected thinkers, underpinning all of these things that I've been talking about, have one thing. And in the Exponential Organization's book, it's called the MTP, which is a massive transformational purpose. A underlying motive, a underlying purpose, a deeper gift that they want to give to the world, a deeper service that they want to give, whatever has impacted their life, they want to pass it on. And therefore, giving others what we had or what we didn't have is the first step we can take in changing the world. So Tesla said that the desire that guides me in all I do is the desire to harness the forces of nature to the service of mankind. And I take Tesla because of what an amazing human being and thinker he was. And that principle, that actually the biggest people who've made the biggest differences on the planet are all people who actually have a deeper goal beyond themselves. When we do something for greater than ourselves, we become greater than we've ever imagined. And it happens all the time. You see, if you study the thinkers that I'm talking about, you study the people that we aspire to be like, or admire or look up to, you'll find that their life was driven by a single-pointed focus to make a difference in the life of people they cared about, beyond themselves, beyond their community, potentially the world. And it's that MTP, that massive transformational purpose, that makes people and organizations more connected to their purpose than ever before. And I'm going to play one last video before we conclude. And if we just share that last video.
Thank you for coming. We're going to make some history together today.
I think Steve Jobs left a mark on our lives, and it's likely that you have an iPad, an iPod, or an iPhone that's in your homes, or maybe you watched a Pixar movie and were totally captivated by the imagination and vision of the producers and the directors. However, I believe that Steve Jobs' biggest gift to us is actually his wisdom, his words of inspiration that he shared in his interviews or his speeches or in his interactions. Steve Jobs said that you should never start a company with the goal of getting rich. It should be about starting a company to make something you believe in. We should dream to make a difference, break down boundaries, build beyond borders, and ignite ideas to innovate incessantly and create for people what they can never conjure up themselves. Henry Ford said that if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. And that's the beauty of going beyond wanting money and going beyond wanting fame and going beyond wanting power, that you actually craft something that evolves people's daily lives, that you actually create something that enhances someone's human experience. And that really brings us to a close on the point of that blurred lines, of actually seeing beyond everything. One of the best examples today is Google's driverless cars. You know, no one believed that Google were a car company. No one believed that Google would be able to venture into that space. But driverless cars is something that they're significantly leading on because they didn't look at their product and go, we are this company. We are a that company. You see the biggest connected thinkers branch out of what may seem natural to them to do more and make what's possible. And therefore, I want to fill you in and leave this with you. The top 10 most important skills in 2016 are this. I would have asked you to fill these out, but I'm going to give you the answers anyway. Complex problem solving stays the same in 4 years. Second becomes critical thinking. Third becomes creativity. And 4 becomes people management. The 4 things that we talked about today cover the top 4 skills you need in 2020. The first one is complex problem solving. One of the biggest forms of complex problem solving that we don't see today is the blurred lines. The second is critical thinking, being able to connect with others, to do critical thinking from the first exercise. The third of creativity, the 30 circles challenge, being able to be creative, open up new neural pathways in our brains. And the fourth, people management, the exercise we did on leadership and personality types, whether you're a D, an I, or an S, or a C. Mastering these 4 techniques makes you relevant in 4 years. Without those 4, we look at where the others are today. Today, creativity is at number 10. This is from the World Economic Forum. For those of you who want to look it up, these are the skills that we need to grow a better and bigger future. I hope that you'll all become connected thinkers in the near future, in the far future, whenever you decide to do it. But the point is that connected thinkers will rule the future. And I look forward to talking to you and answering your questions. Thank you so much. You've been fantastic.